All right, and we are back again, guys. Let's rock and roll. Peter, I'll turn it over to you if you want to introduce the panel.
All right. Well, as I just said, I would like to, because I know there's a couple, I believe there's a couple people that were not on the first panel that are joining us for this one. So if they are here, I would like to invite them to introduce themselves and let us know that they're here. If not,
you want me to go first?
I guess we're it. I guess we're it.
Yep.
My co-host Pete Gould is supposed to be here as well. He is having trouble as Kelly was getting online, so which is sad because he's actually, of the two of us, he's the Superman fan. I'm a Captain Marvel guy, so in an effort not to get beaten up by all the Superman fans that we have here, I wanted to obviously start with Superman, and I was watching your earlier panel, which was really informative. I almost wish you were continuing because I was really enjoying that conversation.
Thank you.
But I know that with the radio serial, a lot of things for Superman got started. You were talking about the flying sounds. I know that, right. And you talked a little bit about kryptonite being introduced as a way to give Bud Collyer a vacation, and I know that they also used Batman and Robin to give him a vacation. So that was kind of like the first, I don't know, I guess one of the first crossovers, you could say, that that Batman and Robin appeared on the Adventures of Superman, also to give Bud Collyer a vacation. Now I believe that Bud also came up with Up and Away to let the radio audiences know that he was taking off, since he didn't have the ability of video. So and
also changing of his voice.
Yes, the changing of his voice, absolutely. And which
does anybody know if these were directorial choices or if these were inventions of the actor?
A little bit of both, I think.
Yes.
I think I think they were, yeah, like Jeff said, I think they were a little bit of both. I know that Bud wanted to differentiate Superman from Clark Kent, and he also wanted to indicate that he was taking off.
Yeah, Up and Away, I think, was written in.
Oh, well, okay.
I was going to say with Bud, I think it was the whole idea of when you're talking like Clark, you're kind of talking like this, and you're talking a little bit weaker. But when you're talking like Superman, you've got more power in your voice and all. So it's,
yeah.
I think that kind of helped the performance as well too. So for him, so
yeah.
Well, it's I mean, it's also, it's an audio medium, so it lacks the visual excitement of the artwork. So you've got to find a way. I mean, the idea with audio is that you need to trigger the reader's imagination without any visuals. And or the listener's imagination without any visuals. So they had to find ways with, like, the flying sound effect or yelling up and away to let people know actually what is happening. Yeah. Rather than having, like, a narrator say, and then Superman jumps into the air.
Anticipation of the action.
Yeah.
Like you're giving the audience who's listening just like, oh, what's happening now? Now off with these clothes, and then oh, something's happening, and then the voice change, which was Bud Collyer was brilliant at. I don't think anyone else has ever been able to follow Bud in that kind of voice change. It's such a dynamic, deep, and
I really like Joan Alexander as Lois too.
Oh yeah,
great Lois voice.
Yes. I thought that
Coatsy.
I think I think George Reeves' show obviously took its cue from the radio show, because George's Clark was more of an investigative journalist, like Bud's Clark was, and that changed. But I think it reflected in the comics until, as you said earlier in the other discussion, Chris took over. And the comics then started to reflect Chris's version of Clark, which I thought was kind of interesting. And I was looking back over some art, and you're definitely right. If you look at pictures of Superman before Chris takes over, it definitely resembles George a lot with the jaw.
Yeah.
Oh, Peter, I just understand we have Jon Davey who's joining us.
Jon Davey is here.
Hi, Jon Davey.
Jon Davey is our mentor on our show.
Captain Marvel, I'm very glad to meet you at last. Be there.
I see his name there.
Oh, hang on one second. I'm trying to unmute him, but it's not working here. Hang on. You guys go ahead and talk. I'll try to get John on. So
one of the but I know that the radio series also I believe introduced the Daily Planet as well as where Clark Kent worked, because I know in the original inception of the radio show, he grew up to full adulthood while coming to Earth, and he arrived as an adult on Earth and just got a job at the Daily Planet. And I believe, and those of you that are more familiar with Superman can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the Daily Planet was created for the radio show. I know he was working for a newspaper, but I think it was
Daily
else.
Star.
Daily Star. Yeah, and
there were two versions of the origin where Kal-El comes to Earth as a fully grown adult. In one, he is met with a man and his young son driving a truck.
Mm-hmm.
And they gave him the name of Clark Kent out of nowhere.
Yeah, yes.
That's right.
But interestingly enough, in the other version, he is met also two people in a truck. It's Professor Olsen and his young son, Jimmy.
Yeah, because Jimmy was created for the radio show.
Yeah.
Right.
And Perry White too, I believe. I don't know that he had a.
At the Daily Star, the editor's name was George Taylor.
Okay.
Guys, so we have Jon Davey on the line now.
Hello,
John. Thank God, another Captain Marvel.
Hello. How are you guys doing? I'm trying to be here inconspicuous.
We had to call you out, John. You know that.
Good luck.
John, I need you here. I'm surrounded by Superman people.
I'm a Captain Marvel fan too.
Same here.
Oh, God.
Well, Peter, I did want to say that part of the idea for the panel is not just Superman. We're talking about how it influenced other shows and other TV series influenced their comic book characters.
Right.
And I know certainly John Shazam had a huge impact on the DC comics that were being published in the 70s.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. Uncle Dudley was revamped into being somewhat of mentor from the TV series. The comic book changed the Uncle Dudley character to really be more of mentor from the TV series, which I thought was very interesting as well. A lot of times when I was looking at the different things, it's funny how the comics will take something when it's in the mind's eye as far as whether radio or television, because I know that although the Batgirl character debuted in the comics early on, she wasn't a major character until they introduced her in the Batman TV series.
And it wasn't Barbara Gordon either.
Yeah, no, it wasn't Barbara Gordon either.
Eddie Kane.
And she became a major character in the comics following the Batman TV series. And I know that, as you said before with Alfred, I think the TV series definitely took its inception of Alfred from the serials, because Alfred was tall and thin. He didn't have a mustache. Alan Napier didn't have a mustache, but he was the taller, thinner. And I know that the comics briefly used the character of Chief O'Hara right after the TV show came out. They briefly used Chief O'Hara to be an assistant to Commissioner Gordon. But I think, like all of us, realized Chief O'Hara was pretty much useless, and how he got to be chief, I'll never understand.
Politics
set very low.
It's Gotham City is a corrupt town.
Right,
yeah, right,
right.
the same way that Mayberry was.
Yes, yes. Well, he only had one bullet, so.
Yeah.
Well, what was Captain Marvel's hometown? Do we know?
Fawcett City, right?
Captain Marvel's hometown.
Well, Fawcett City,
yeah. Fawcett City, yeah, Fawcett City.
But in the TV show, didn't Billy Batson and Captain Marvel and Les Tremaine, they traveled in that bus, right?
Yeah. Yeah, RV.
It was an RV. It was an RV, and they the one thing that I always felt that the Shazam show was kind of leading you towards is, okay, even though Mentor's not there with Billy when he's talking to the elders, he knows everything. And I always thought I had two ideas that that maybe they were setting him up to be the Wizard Shazam, and that's why he knew everything. And I heard, actually, this is not my idea. I read somewhere else that somebody had the idea that Mentor was a previous host for Captain Marvel, and he was kind of training Billy, as it were,
replacement
to be his replacement.
That's what I'd heard, that Mentor was originally in the first Captain Marvel, and then was passing it along to Billy.
Yeah. That's what I heard, and I know that they touched on the fact that he worked for Wiz TV.
Yeah.
Very briefly, but at least they did touch on that. Now, getting back to Superman real quick, because I know that we talked about Jimmy Olsen and Perry White, because Superman was really the first, he was the first comic book hero, and then his radio show, I believe, was one of the first radio shows to feature a superhero. I mean, other than maybe perhaps Captain Midnight or
Shadow.
The Shadow. And I know that the Shadow radio show, in the difference between the pulp comics, is that Lamont Cranston was just one of the many identities for the Shadow.
Interestingly enough, one of his aliases was a guy named Kent Allard.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Kent,
yep.
That name keeps coming up.
Well, and his girlfriend was Margot Kent.
Margot Lane.
Margot Lane. Yeah, Margot Lane. And
wanted it to be.
But the radio show was the one that gave him just the identity of Lamont Cranston. And the radio show also
invisibility.
Pardon me?
Invisibility. The Shadow got invisibility.
Yeah,
from the radio show.
The ability to cloud men's minds. Yeah, so
that was not in the pulps, though.
That's right.
No. And the radio show changed the League. The Shadow always had, if he saved your life, then you were indebted to him, and he had a league of people all over the city that he could call on.
A League of Shadows, if you will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, very much.
Everything has a fountainhead. Everything has a jumping off point. So yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting. We did a show about the Batman serials, and we just to change the subject real quick, that some of the things that happened in the comic books that did not come over to the serials is that in the serials, Batman just had a car. It was just like just the black sedan, and
owned by Bruce Wayne.
Yes, and I had read a story where when Bob Kane was visiting the set, he asked the director, he says, "Okay, well, where's the Batmobile?" And the director said, "Well, that's it over there." He's like, "Can't you put like a bat face on it or something to make it look like And so that, I thought that was interesting. Some of the things from the comics that didn't transfer over with Shazam, I don't believe they ever used Tawny in the Shazam television. Thank goodness.
No.
Because a talking tiger was and Isis was created from the Shazam TV series, and she got her own comic book series after that, and she was actually, other than Batgirl, the first feminine lead hero. Batgirl was Batgirl from the 60s, but she didn't carry the show. She was a major character, but she didn't carry the show. Isis was the first one to really carry the show, and that was created from Shazam. I think because John Davey needed some time off. So now I'm looking at it, and I was trying to find some other things with Batman, because obviously the most prevalent information out there is the Superman information.
Well, I know with the Batman serial, the Batcave came from that.
Yes.
And Zorro too.
Yeah, and Zorro too. Absolutely. I know the one thing that when we were talking, we had a show about the Lone Ranger and the Green Hornet.
Awesome.
And,
love those two.
And the one thing about those characters that I always thought was an interesting thing was that both characters, the Lone Ranger and the Green Hornet, were teamed up and actually really good friends with their partners, who were not the type of partners you would expect for those time periods.
Well, they were created by the same people.
Right. Yes. Yep. Yeah. The Lone Ranger, the Green Hornet is actually the Lone Ranger's great nephew.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
Dan Reed's son.
And the Lone Ranger, it's the Old West, and the Lone Ranger's best friend and most trusted partner is an Indian, which is not usually something that would happen. And the Green Hornet, which takes place in the 40s during World War II, on the radio, I believe Kato was Filipino.
Yes.
But then, of course, for the television series with Bruce Lee, they made him Oriental, and I think he's continued to be Oriental in the comics as well. But
actually, I think what happened was originally Kato was Japanese, and after
That's right.
World War II, they made him Filipino to
faithful Filipino Valak Kato.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I know that it was discussed in an episode. There was another crossover with Dan Reed being in an episode of the Green Hornet and kind of talking about the dichotomy between the Lone Ranger and the Green Hornet, in that the Lone Ranger wore a mask, and in the Old West it was just assumed if you had a mask on, you were a bad guy. So he used that to his advantage. And Britt Reed, kind of on his own, not really knowing he was related to the Lone Ranger, kind of wanted to, couldn't bring down the mob with his newspaper, so he decided he would infiltrate from another way around and make himself be a crime boss. And his father talked about that, the similarities that the two characters had without even really knowing it. I always thought that was an interesting thing, especially with the TV series, because the TV in the serial, it was just a two-door sedan. In fact, I think it was actually the same car they used as the Batmobile.
Although the sound of the car, the sound of the Black Beauty had a hornet sting on it.
Yes, yes. And in the very first serial, they wanted people to know, okay, this is the Green Hornet, and you've listened to him on the radio. So the actor who was playing Britt Reed, once he put the Hornet mask on, which covered his whole face, they used the actor who played the Green Hornet on radio to be the voice of the Green Hornet.
Warren Hull.
Yeah.
In the first Green Hornet serial, Britt Reed was Gordon Jones, the guy who played Mike the cop on Abbott and Costello.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And Al Hodge was the voice of
Al Hodge. That's right.
At the time.
Yeah.
And interestingly enough, the actor who portrayed Dan Reed on the crossover Green Hornet episode, I can't remember his name, but he was the actor who portrayed Tonto on the Lone Ranger.
Jay Silverheels?
No, on the radio show.
On the radio show.
Okay. On the radio serial. And although Jay Silverheels sounded exactly like that guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
One of the things I always thought was interesting, especially what the TV show created, was when the Green Hornet and Kato left in the Black Beauty, the car. Kato was up front and the Green Hornet was in the back. And I remember having a discussion with someone about that, and I was like, well, geez, why can't and I think actually even Seth Rogen in his horrible Green Hornet film actually touched on that. It was, why is the Green Hornet sitting in the back? Why can't he sit up front with Kato? And the point was that the Green Hornet was a crime boss. Yeah. And the crime boss is not going to sit in the front seat with his chauffeur. He's going to sit in the back, because when he shows up, he's got to get out of the back seat because he's a crime boss. He's a crime lord.
Also, all the gadgets are in the back.
Right. Exactly. Well, Kato had some.
Oh, yeah. But a lot of, he needed the entire panel in the back seat.
Right.
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 I was hoping about the Seth Rogen movie when it was coming out. I thought, when I first heard that Seth Rogen was going to be the Green Hornet, I was sort of like, what are they doing?
Yeah.
But he had an opportunity to make it into a great movie, and he didn't do it.
No.
Britt Reed could have been the obnoxious guy that Seth Rogen portrayed him as.
Yes.
But as soon as he puts on the mask, he should become all serious, and that would have helped in the differentiating between Britt Reed and the Hornet.
Jeffrey, you make a very good point, because I had the same reaction way back in '89 when I heard Michael Keaton was going to be Batman. I'm thinking, Mr. Mom as Batman?
Yeah.
I remember thinking, he has no chin.
But needless to say, he hit it out of the ballpark. He surprised us all. And I was kind of hoping Seth Rogen is a goofball, but let's just give it a chance. And, well, Jeffrey, you said it.
Yeah.
Don't we know from experience that when an offbeat casting suddenly turns out wonderful? I mean, how many people were thinking Jokeback Mountain when Heath Ledger was cast as the Joker?
Right. Absolutely.
Or what kind of casting is that? And oh my Lord, what an amazing performance. The first Joker to win the Oscar.
Yeah.
He completely changed everything. He made you forget Jack Nicholson. So, I always wait and see before I make a judgment. But Seth Rogen could have been brilliant. It could have been a wonderful movie. I mean, Cameron Diaz was a perfect casting for Lenore Case.
Actually, though, I thought the whole movie was very well cast. Edward James Olmos was perfect.
I did have one problem with it though, and spoiler alert if you haven't seen the movie, but
you haven't missed much.
Yeah, you haven't missed much.
making District Attorney Scanlon the bad guy. No.
I didn't like that.
No.
I didn't like that either. And in fact, what really bothered me about it is that I will say that the one positive thing that I thought Seth Rogen did was he paid a nice homage to both the radio serial and the original series by having District Attorney Scanlon in it.
Yeah.
And his gun as well. He had like the bigger gun versus the little handgun that Van Williams used in his. But I might also add, Jay Chow did a pretty good Kato.
He was great. He was phenomenal as Kato.
Yes.
He took it so seriously next to Seth Rogen. It was like, well, Seth Rogen should be that good. So.
Yeah.
But has anyone heard anything new about is it an animated Green Hornet that's coming or a live action? I can't remember if it was a movie or if it's an animated or what, but I know that another Green Hornet is coming, and we hope that they get it right this time. Live action
TV show. They're finally bringing him back to the small screen, which is where he should be.
Yeah. He's a good character. And speaking of the Green Hornet, Lenore Case was from the radio series, but she did not know that Britt Reed was the Green Hornet. That's something they changed for the TV series. I'm not really sure why, because Kato always knew. So I suppose they needed to have somebody on the Daily Sentinel that knew he was the Green Hornet, just so he could make excuses to get out.
Well, there was a certain accountability for it, because if Lenore Case knew about it, being his private secretary, she was a big aid to him as the Hornet, as another pair of eyes. With District Attorney Scanlon knowing about it, it was accountability as far as if he ever got caught and put on trial, it would be he was working undercover. All of this was a setup, so it would be his reason for being the way he was.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And
in the Seth Rogen movie, on Britt Reed's, is it on his desk or on his wall, was a picture of the Lone Ranger.
That's right.
Yes.
When I saw it in theaters,
but it wasn't the small mask, I don't think. I think it was more of a
full facial covering.
I think
full facial.
Yeah, more full facial.
Yeah.
That was a copyright issue.
And
yeah, they actually had the same thing happen when the Topps comics, I think, for the Green Hornet.
Yeah, or Now Comics.
Now, thank you. Yeah.
Was it Now? Yeah. And they actually made reference to all of the Green Hornets, the original Britt Reed, and then there was his son, the guy with the long blonde hair, and each one had their own Kato.
Yeah. Yeah.
And with Dynamite, they finally did a Green Hornet Lone Ranger crossover, and I really enjoyed that one.
Yeah, that was very well done and long overdue.
Very sad ending. Very sad ending.
Yeah.
I was going to say that the concept of it almost being like a buddy cop movie in the tradition of, say, Miami Vice or in Lethal Weapon, that was a good concept, but they just didn't execute it, or Rogen didn't execute it.
No, and that's the problem. I think a lot of that has to be laid at the feet of Seth Rogen, who, as Jeff said, had the opportunity to take something and blow it out of the park like Michael Keaton did with Batman.
Yeah.
Michael Keaton is still a lot of people's favorite version of Batman.
Simply because he had the brooding down perfectly.
Yes.
And he had the best bat symbol, too.
Yeah. Yes. And he looked cool in the costume. He really did.
Shame he couldn't move his neck around.
This is all you really see of him. So.
Yeah.
But, the radio took, like with one of the other interesting things I found was with Tarzan and Edgar Rice Burroughs' Tarzan in the novels and even in the radio show. Tarzan is educated. When he went back to England, he was educated. He just didn't enjoy civilization, and went back into the jungle.
Tarzan managed to get educated on his own. He taught himself to read from the books left in the cabin by his parents.
That's right.
He literally taught himself to read English. But his first spoken human language was actually French, which he learned from Darnall.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
All before he ever saw civilization. So he could read and write English, but speak French.
Doc, he doesn't have a French accent when he speaks, right?
Yeah.
Remember they cast that guy? There was a French actor who played him in the 80s. Remember that Tarzan
with the long blonde hair?
Is that Michael Lambert?
Christopher
Lambert. Michael Lambert. Yes, he was not French, and everyone seemed to be like up in arms at the time. You know, how can a French play Tarzan? Well, two things: he had the V, right? Yes. And, you know, he had a French accent, which absolutely Tarzan would have.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Until he'd learn English eventually, and then he'd sound like a British lord or whatever, because one of Tarzan's gifts is that he can mimic animals, so he can mimic any accent. But he'd when Jane first meets him, he should probably be talking like a Maurice Chevalier, you know?
The problem with that would be everybody would be thinking Pepe Le Pew.
Right. Well, I mean that's why one of my favorite actors to portray Tarzan has always been Gordon Scott, because he was the first one that had the opportunity, although his first couple of films were the monosyllabic Tarzan, but he was the first actor that they really said, okay, in Edgar Rice Burroughs' books, Tarzan's educated, so let's have Tarzan be educated. And so they I believe they kept Cheetah, but they did away with Jane, and Tarzan talked. And so Gordon Scott, and I always liked the television series with Ron Ely as well.
Yeah.
Both of those guys looked great in the loincloth.
Jock Mahoney, and so everything between the TV show and the Gordon Scott movie. After Gordon Scott, Tarzan always spoke intelligently.
Yes.
Danny Miller was
How much of that
one.
is because Edgar Rice Burroughs and his family, his estate, have always exercised strong control over Tarzan.
That's very true.
I mean, as opposed to, the Lone Ranger and Green Hornet, who've had really bad movies. I mean, the poor Lone Ranger has had just the worst movies. And this is
Mystery Science Theater 3000 would have a field day with those movies.
Yeah. Well, I know. I don't know. There was an internet game where you had to. It was a really funny game. I can't remember the name it was, but one of the categories was who the hell is Clinton Spilsbury, and he was the and God love him, he looked the part. He did.
As long as he didn't open up his mouth.
Well, and that wasn't even his voice. He was dubbed.
Yep.
I don't, and I don't know. I've never heard his. I mean, I assume that he didn't come on and say, "Hi, I'm the Lone Ranger," but I know his voice was dubbed. Christopher Lloyd was great as Butch Cavendish, but it was too long. It took too long to get started. The story really didn't go anywhere, and And then, of course, Disney just really screwed it up, in my opinion.
With the Armie Hammer version. And...
Yeah. Again, Armie Hammer looked the part. Yeah. Armie Hammer presented a very good look for the Lone Ranger.
And I'm sorry to say this, but when I saw it, it was Armie Hammer as John Reed, aka the Lone Ranger, and Johnny Depp as Captain Jack Tonto.
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
Oh. I just can't get past that bird. Oh my. Oh.
Can I make 2 points regarding Lone Ranger?
How did that bird get on his head?
I just couldn't get. It looked like a joke.
My understanding about the bird on Johnny Depp's head is that this was something that Depp himself insisted on. And it's because there is an old photograph of an Indian, of a Native American posed with a crow behind his head in such a way that it looks like a headdress. But I do not believe that anyone ever wore a dead bird on their head in real life.
Might use their feathers, sure, but not an actual dead bird.
I just always thought if Jay Silverheels had any family around, that they could have just gone and go, what were you thinking? You know?
I think it was the case of Johnny Depp.
Walk into this, would you please?
Yeah. Can we just CGI Jay Silverheels into this thing, please?
It would have made it a lot better.
It would have made it a lot better.
It's amazing to me. It's amazing to me that they wouldn't get, that Hollywood was still casting white guys to play Native American. I mean, it just floors me. It just.
But wasn't Depp Native American?
Like partially.
Okay, that's what I heard. Sorry, John.
Yeah. Although in the Clinton Spilsbury one, Michael Horse played Tonto.
Right.
He was a Native American, I believe.
Yeah, and he did. I mean, he did a fine job as Tonto. It was just they got in their own way, I think, because they even had the original announcer from the radio serial, which was a nice tie into the old radio show. I always felt, though, at the very end when he's doing his old radio voiceover and you see Tonto and the Lone Ranger riding off into the that just always reminded me of Adam West and Burt Ward riding in the Batmobile. You know, I have expected the Lone Ranger to turn around and say, "Atomic batteries to power."
Turbines to speed, Kim.
It looks like they look like Batman and Robin riding off into the sunset.
Hey, Peter.
Guys, I did want to make 2 points if I could.
Sure.
First of all, the Johnny Depp film, badly executed, but that train scene,
that was the whole movie.
That is freaking amazing. Just watch that part.
Yes.
As soon as the William Tell overture comes on, and Silver is riding across the rooftops, onto the train. I mean, that's the Lone Ranger. That's when the movie starts. And ends.
Yeah.
The second thing, going back to the 80s movie, the big thing they did in both films I thought was a huge misfire is the idea that you saw the Lone Ranger's face.
Mm-hmm.
I think if they had kept that air of mystery like you have with the Clayton Moore series, I think that would have been it takes people out of it. It's like you're seeing him without the mask, and a lot of people are thinking that's not the Lone Ranger.
Yeah, I agree.
You get that mask on, that's when he becomes the Lone Ranger, and I think that was one of the things that they made a mistake on. I know actors want to see their face out there. They want people to know who they are.
Well, I think it's more of a morphing thing, like Bruce Wayne morphing into Batman, seeing John Reed morph into the Lone Ranger.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think the only reason you never saw Clayton Moore without his mask was because the producers of that show were super cheap, and they wanted to be able to replace Clayton Moore at the drop of a hat. Which they did for
terrible.
But it didn't work. It didn't. Right. It just did not.
No, work. It didn't work. He came back, but the idea that he would always wear the mask was really an expediency because, well, what if Clayton Moore wants too much money? You know.
Yeah.
Well, I thought it was interesting because you never saw him without the mask unless he was in a disguise.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right.
Like the old prospector.
Yeah, the old prospector, the old miner who, comes to town.
Yeah, can you imagine an old prospector with a mask on?
Who is that mask man?
Okay, now, who could that be?
How come there's so many people around here with masks on?
Yeah.
Hey, someone...
Fantastic. It's magic right here. I got gold nuggets and I got a mask, too.
Hey,
The other thing is, too, it's commitment to what he stood for, because I remember reading one of the stories that he said he would never take the mask off until he had avenged, or he brought 500 criminals to justice.
That's right.
Or until his services were no longer needed.
That's right.
Yeah.
Bruce, Lone Ranger's more hardcore than Batman, because Batman pretends to be Bruce Wayne, but Lone Ranger's always the Lone Ranger. He's always going to be.
Except when he needs to take a bath.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully he's still lone.
Yeah. Hey, someone mentioned Buster Crabbe a second ago. I have to ask this question. Yeah. Couldn't you see Buster Crabbe back then being an excellent live action Aquaman?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that would have been great.
Definitely.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Being an Olympic swimmer, he was halfway there anyway.
And had the blonde hair and everything. I look at him, I'm like, he could have been Aquaman back then.
Well, Buster Crabbe was like the go-to guy back then. He was Buck Rogers. He was Flash Gordon. He was Tarzan once.
Yep.
It's like, hey, we're casting a superhero film. Well, get Buster Crabbe. He'll do it.
Yeah. And
I would like to say what
he was talking about his Tarzan. He was talking about someone in the interview was talking about him wrestling with the lion. And he was saying about the poor lion, he didn't have any teeth in his mouth. He was so old.
Well, I was going to say with the 2013 Lone Ranger film, as bad as I want to say, at least some good things came out of it. They did a complete box set of the original Clayton Moore series, which is awesome. We got another series of the comic books, which is great. And I feel like because of the movie, we finally got the Green Hornet Lone Ranger crossover.
Yeah.
And if you look at the very last page of the Green Hornet crossover, no spoilers or anything like that, you'll notice a lot of pulp cameos. And I think you might even see Superman in there, or at least Tarzan. I know you can see the Shadow at least. And I thought that was a very nice touch.
I think the Phantom is there, if I'm not. Yeah, so.
Also, as someone mentioned in the chat, we got a pretty cool Lego set too.
We need to bring the Phantom back.
I know.
At one point, my girlfriend and I, we went to Whole Foods and Billy Zane was there.
Ooh.
Just shopping and everything.
Just shopping.
Yeah. And I wound up meeting him there, and I got to talk to him later on also. And he says that he is more than ready to do a Phantom sequel.
He did a great job in the first one.
Yeah.
I want to see him as Lex Luthor, to be honest with you. Now he has that shaved head.
He would be great now, yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
He was a great thug in Back to the Future, too.
That's
right. Background, just kind of with a toothpick or something hanging out of his mouth. You're like, that's Billy Zane.
Yeah, no, the Phantom was that was another character that was so underutilized.
Yeah.
They did I know that they did one serial.
Right.
But
Tom Tyler.
Yeah, it was Tom Tyler. Now, the interesting thing is it actually is a Phantom serial, but it's not the Phantom. It's called Captain Africa.
Yep.
It's John Hart. And they use a lot of the long shots of Tom Tyler's Phantom in the thing. He's a guy who wears purple. He lives in the jungle. They think he's a god. And
yeah, they were
like,
trying to get out of,
that's the Phantom, but they couldn't say the Phantom, so they called him Captain Africa.
Yeah.
Kind of like Zorro's Black Whip.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And since you mentioned the Phantom, when are we ever going to get that Phantom Tarzan crossover we've always wanted to see?
Yeah, really.
I've always wondered would a Zorro Lone Ranger crossover be?
Boy,
that's something kind of got it, but it was like elderly Zorro, and he like died within the first issue. It's called The Lone Ranger: The Death of Zorro.
Oh, okay.
It was good. It's just you got to see the Lone Ranger meet Zorro's corpse. That's the crossover we always wanted, right? But yeah, we definitely need a legitimate Lone Ranger Zorro crossover.
Just how about another Batman Green Hornet crossover?
That would be great.
Yeah, sure.
But
I actually enjoyed drawing a section of the comic book, the Batman Green Hornet crossover that, well, it was Batman 66.
Yeah. I love that, though. I like that a lot.
It was really
Batman
fun.
66 was a great series.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I had fun. That
was good. Well, you did a good job on it, John. I enjoyed it.
Thank you.
It's almost a shame, though, that Batman wasn't in on the crime boss ruse of the Hornet.
Well, the thing about the TV series is and the only reason I remember this is I saw somebody put together every window cameo that ever was, and in the Green Hornet and Kato's window cameo, Batman and Robin recognized them as fellow crime fighters.
Yeah.
And then in the actual episode, they don't know who they are.
Yeah.
So it's
Oops.
It was supposed to shot out sequence. It was supposed to be shown later in the season, but it wasn't. So that's what happened.
Yeah. But I had a question for Brad, just getting back to the Lone Ranger Zorro. I thought that Zorro and the Lone Ranger were kind of the same time period. Is that not?
No, like Lone Ranger's like Civil War, like post Civil War, and Zorro's like 50 years before that, maybe 30 or 40. You think they're similar in time scale, but they're not.
Okay, all right.
So basically, you would see the Lone Ranger in The Mask of Zorro.
Right. Yeah.
Where you see.
Though in the comic, the Lone Ranger's father actually did meet a young Zorro.
Okay. Well, in The Mask of Zorro, isn't that Clayton Moore playing that part?
No, that's the ghost
Mask
of
of
Zorro.
Zorro was
that's the ghost of Zorro.
Hopkins,
okay.
Anthony Hopkins as an older Diego de la Vega.
Okay.
Oh, guys, I hate to interrupt, but we're coming up on 1 o'clock. We've got to get ready for our next panel.
Not in my time.
I know, Jeff. I appreciate you getting up early first, man.
I got up at oh my god in the morning, so
the butt crack of dawn.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks everybody for being here. John, thanks for coming in. I appreciate it.
Hey, thank you for having me. Also, this has been fun.
Yeah,
hey, Peter,
I love talking pulp characters. It's been
Peter,
wonderful.
tell to
all 5 people on the planet who really are interested
to see if he can work out the technology. I mean, I wanted to see him in Metropolis, and the airlines couldn't get him there, and now his technology is preventing him from being here. So,
who's that?
Yeah, my co-host, Peter, he wasn't able to get online this morning.
Yeah,
and he was looking forward to
the nemesis of technology.
Absolutely. But Dan gets to talk to John Davey and all the really cool people. So I'm very jealous of that, but I'll be watching.
Oh yeah.
The Adventures of Podcast, man. What's your name? I'm sorry.
My name is Peter Alden. Sorry, Stuart.
Peter Alden. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you. Thank you for your time.
Oh, thank you guys. I appreciate it very much.
It's nice meeting you too, Peter. You also kind of remind me of Ace Ventura a little bit.
No, I know. My hair is really puffy. I looked at the camera came on. I was like, "What the hell is going on?"
I wish I had that hair on top of my head.
Same here.
Hey, so do I.
And me, I haven't had a haircut since March, and I'm starting to look like George Carlin.
It's good look, though.
Jeff, I was going to say Ben Franklin, but
no, you definitely not George Carlin going there, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely want that guy's hair.
Well, guys, I've got to start our commercial for this podcast. But Peter, thank you again for moderating this one. I thank you for joining us, and I'm definitely going to check out your podcast. It sounds great.
Yeah, thank you all so much, and I'm going to be watching the rest of the weekend. So appreciate it very much.
Thank you, John Davey too.
Well,
thanks everybody. Nice talking.
Thanks for coming.
Nice to meet everyone.
Really enjoyed this.
Good talk, everybody.
You guys stick around. We've got an interview coming up with Jon next, Superman artist for this weekend. And let me roll commercial, and I'll be back in a moment.
Woo!
Hey.
Hi, I'm Peter Alden.
And I'm Pete Gould.
Join us each week on the Adventures of podcast.
We talk about heroes, both super and otherwise.
Although we focus mainly on superhero, sci-fi, and action shows of the 70s and 80s, we also talk about classic superhero TV shows from the 50s and 60s, as well as movie and radio serials, cartoons, power records, and more.
We also chat with some of your favorite heroes from those groundbreaking TV shows.
Hi, this is Burt Ward, Robin from the TV series Batman.
This is Shannon Farnan, the voice of Wonder Woman on Super Friends.
This is Michael Gray.
This is John Davey from the TV series Shazam.
Hi, this is Kathy Garber, Firestar on Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends.
We even have special visits each and every week from Captain Marvel himself, Jon Davey.
New episodes drop each Saturday morning at 10 a.m.
You can find us on Anchor, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Play, iHeartRadio, or anywhere fine podcasts are heard.
Follow us at The Adventures of Podcast on Facebook and ThemeParkology.com.